How's it going, everyone? Panyo here. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of After Dinner Mints. Before we begin, I just want to highly encourage everyone who is watching to join us in the Art Blocks Discord, which is basically where the community lives. You know, artists can ask questions to collectors, collectors can ask questions to artists. It's basically where everyone, you know, kind of meets and gathers around. So a link to our Discord can be found in the description of the video. Also, I have, as usual, we have the gas prices up over here. They change every 10 to 15 seconds. And if anyone from the community has questions for any of our guests tonight, just feel free to send a DM to Druid. He will join us later on and bring up those questions for any of our guests. But yeah, without further ado, I want to go ahead and get right into it. I want to introduce our guests today. We have a generative artist and founder of Art Blocks, Snowfro. We have generative artists Steven and Alex, who make up the duo called Generative Artworks. And then we also have Phil Smith, aka Only Generated, who had a sold-out factory drop earlier today.
Hey everyone.
And then also we have AC, who has built up quite the Art Blocks collection. Cool, we have a great show. I want to start by welcoming our first guests, who are a team of two named Generative Artworks. Steven and Alex, welcome to tonight's discussion. How are you all doing?
We're great. We're happy to be here. We're excited.
Yeah, doing very good, thanks.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I want to go ahead and get started. How did the two of you meet?
So we met in college. We went to college together. We were both computer science majors, and we ended up living together for 1 year. It was my senior year, Alex's junior year. During that time, we worked on a bunch of, class projects together, some side projects for fun. We also worked at the same startup together for about 1.5 years, I think.
Yeah, around that.
So around that time, we just started working together and never stopped.
Yeah.
Well, how did you guys get into generative art? It sounded like, you guys have spent a lot of time prior to working on projects.
Yeah, I can go a little bit into that. What really kind of excited us about it is, I don't remember exactly how I came across it, but this idea of making art with programming came into my head. And at the time, I didn't know that was generative art and as it's named. And I was kind of thinking of how you could apply that to kind of shirts and merchandise and different types of things, like you and your friend both have a shirt, and you can have the same you accidentally have the same exact shirt, with some logo on it, whether it's, let's say, like Vineyard Vines or those type of shirts. But what we thought would be cool is you have this one of one type of shirts, and a great way to do that would be, what we found out would be generative art. So you kind of use these print on demand service, hit this API, and then you would generate these shirts on the fly, and then people could kind of wear them, and each shirt is unique. Someone can have the same shirt, but it's kind of, you can relate more and be like, oh, it's cool, we have the same shirt, but yours is unique in these types of ways. And we never ended up doing that, and we're actually wearing 2 of the shirts we ended up making, and we're the only people in the world that have these shirts, which we think is funny. So we kind of have that one of one aspect, but we never ended up applying that. But we really got into generative art from there, and started the Generative Artworks Instagram, and we've been posting a piece every day since, and it's been over 1 year now that we've been doing that.
Yeah, and so the Instagram page kind of started out of necessity. That was sort of our way of thinking we should advertise ourselves, and we learned the best way to grow on Instagram is to post consistently. So we did that, and just by chance learned more and more about generative art and got deeper into the community because of it.
That's awesome. How did you guys transition into learning about the NFT space, and then also just learning about Art Blocks and the platform?
Ooh, yeah, that's I think it was around February, when it started to kind of hit mainstream news. So I've always been interested in crypto. I went back in, probably when I was in middle school or early high school, I built my first computer and wanted to mine on it. And I never really figured out Bitcoin mining, but I've always been someone that's tried to adapt new tech, as soon as I kind of find out about it. So when I started to see like NFTs start to pop up in the news, and I'd been out of crypto for like 2-3 years at this point, and I saw this, and I remembered CryptoKitties, and from there I jumped on OpenSea, and I saw the squiggles, and I saw like a ton of different squiggles on the main page. These are all the same, but they're different. They're one of X, and ended up on the Artblock site. It's like hosted immediately on the Ethereum blockchain, like generative art. I'm like, okay, like this is right up our alley. And from there we like scheduled a call with Snowfro, and like talking to Snowfro, like really kind of exemplified the vision that we talked about, you know, just a minute ago about like this one of X kind of, not merch in this case, but like this art that people can really, we thought like, oh, the only way to do that with generative art is through this merch. But it turns out, you know, with NFTs and the Ethereum blockchain, you can host this generative art immutably. And in our minds, this is like the next evolution of generative art. You know, computers have gotten more powerful over the years with Moore's law, and that slowed down. And now the next big thing is, you know, now you can put this NFTs, and you can really monetize this work instead of you know, kind of sharing it with your friends and just having a good time with it. Yeah.
That's great. So your first factory project was called Empyrean. Am I saying that correctly, actually?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Can you share with us the vision for this project?
Yeah. So Empyrean actually came about so I'll skip forward here a little bit. So Empyrean came about the day after we had the phone call, or the video call with Snowfro. So that was March 2nd when we had that call. By March 3rd, I had posted Circle Web on Instagram. That was what I called it at the time. And it was just one of the daily posts. It wasn't really anything too special. But if you look at this Empyrean all the way on the left, that's really, could be in the mainnet set of Empyreans, right? So having that phone call was just like a big inspiration. And I basically worked on it for the rest of that night, came up with this prototype, thought it was really cool, and then just kept adding more and more features to the code based on what I had understood from that call, how art blocks would work, and how there's this sort of collectability, I guess, aspect to these pieces. So I posted these other two for March 5th and March 7th on the Instagram page, and after seeing how much of a variety we could get out of the one piece of code, that's really when we realized, all right, this is what Snowfro was telling us about. We can go somewhere with this.
Yeah,
that's great. Do you have some favorite mints that you would be able to share with us?
Yes,
yeah, sure.
We do.
Yeah, so like we have three here. So the first one's 439, owned by Buck, who loves Empyreans, and we love him because he's always talking to us about like what he's picking up in his collection. We always enjoy kind of seeing what he picks. But this I would say kind of exemplifies what we thought of when we started working on this piece. So like Empyrean isn't just like 5 features, it's 21 features, and any 3 of those features you pick out are going to interact in really weird and off ways, and you can kind of see these themes. So this first one here really exemplifies. So this is a use previous endpoint. So anytime a line is started, it is started when a previous where a previous line ended. So every single line in this piece is connected. We also have 2 types of nodes. We have the circle node here, and we have the asterisk node. So because of that use previous endpoints, those end up being laid over in each other and kind of create these bullets, which I think create this kind of like hacker, kind of like technology like vibe to this piece. And this is only seen in very few mints in the overall set. The second one is one we never expected to come out of the minter. We never saw this in any of our testing. This one is owned by Trill, and like this is just one that really surprised us. So this is like very few nodes, and then like a circle node, and then it's a full spectrum piece. So this ends up making it had enough lines to kind of cover every single node, and then created, you know, a very pattern oriented piece, which looks way more organized than any of the other Empyreans in the set that you look at. Like I think Nemo has one that kind of has very few nodes, but it had a different type of like drawing between the nodes. It was what's the
I don't remember.
yeah, like, but like that one didn't have as much organization. Then the last one you have is 120, which is Snowfro owns this one. And this is like it's static here, but in that one, that's a circle noise and I believe a color rotation. So because there were so many features, and this was like as this was like a launch of the like factory piece, we originally put it at a mint of 1,000. And we tried to, with all these features, we felt we could really like fulfill that large mint size. But once we decided to drop it, like we weren't able to kind of see every single feature. So this is the closest to what we considered to be like the holy grail. And what the holy grail was like color rotation, like noise movement, like full spectrum, nodes on start point and end point, like just the whole shebang in terms of features. We
Node
never
rotation.
Yeah, node rotation. We never ended up seeing that. And in the 1,000 set, it was most likely not going to happen at all. So like it's cool to think about, and like this is the closest that we got. And it's always funny that Snowfro always gets some of the rarest mints around. So we like exemplifying that in this collection of what we found interesting. We also have some of the ones from this collection that we thought were like unusual. Actually, never mind. That's in the Enchiridion. We don't have any of that. There's nothing unusual about Empyrean. We're lying to you.
Well, I'm curious, as far as, you know, the animation, was that something that you guys always had from the start, or is that something that you kind of, you know, midway through the project, you're like, hey, let's like shake it up a little bit. Let's throw in some animation.
Yeah, so that was rather last minute, actually. So like I showed earlier, so these were the initial Empyreans, the circle webs. And so I started with just the straight lines around the circle, connecting the circle. Then I added Beziers, and then sometimes the points in the middle of the Bezier could be inside the circle, other times it could be outside the circle, and all of the different colors and things like that. And then that was really the whole foundation for Empyrean. But then at the end, Alex came in and added all the crazy stuff. So like all the nodes, like the start point and end point nodes, the animation in color, so color rotation and hue shift. Is there anything else?
No, I would say like what ended up happening with Empyrean was I kind of went through like a really weird fever dream like week. I would be falling asleep in bed. I'd be like, you know what's cool for Empyrean? Like noise movement. And then I'd wake up the next morning, I'd go implement noise movement, and then I'd send a message to Steven like, noise movement's been implemented. He's like, what's that? I'm like, it moves. So like it was that like day in and day out for like a week. So if you look back in like the history on the Discord, you'll see about a week before, or a little over a week before we released like Empyrean with a lot less features, like a whole grid of them. And then a week later, I post the same picture and just like there's like everything. Like it looks totally different. So it was a really insane week, but it was great because we do a lot of Instagram posts, and Instagram's all about like we post. Like it's hardly even generative art. Like we write up the algorithm, we post like one iteration of it, maybe like 3 at most. You know, you got like 4 pictures you can use. Yeah. So we never get that chance to really dive deep into an algorithm. And Empyrean was the first chance we got to really put in the time and effort to just go crazy. And like we took full advantage of that with Empyrean.
I'm curious. So like number 120, and there's a bunch of mints that are somewhat similar. They're obviously all different, but they kind of remind me of a spirograph, which is like a geometric drawing tool. Do you guys have any inspiration from that tool, like as far as when creating this project?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily like a spirograph in particular, although I have tried to emulate that in other pieces I've created. Really, this was designed more for something that would be easily plottable by an AxiDraw or another plotter. So, you know, if you look at it, all it is just lines, right, around a circle. So that's super simple to plot. So that was really the foundation for where this design came from.
So I'm curious, since you guys are a duo, were there ever any challenges while creating this? Since, you know, you guys don't live together, you know, you guys live You mentioned maybe like 30, 40 minutes apart. How, like, what are the biggest challenges you guys face, working as a team together, but not living, really close to each other?
Mhm. I don't really see many challenges, to be honest. Like I said, we've known each other for a long time now, and we've always been working together on something since we've known each other. So, I mean, I guess there are some challenges, like maybe Alex isn't available at a time when I want to work, but that's
Yeah,
not a
you
big
just
deal,
figure it out over time.
And yeah, exactly. And we're just used to it by now. And we both have a software engineering background, so we're used to just creating a PR, letting the other person check it when they have a
Cool.
chance.
So at the end of this project, for a lot of people that don't know, can you share, at the completion of Empyrean, you offered collectors an opportunity to receive a sticker. And then a lot of people didn't know that, obviously when you received the sticker, it also included a puzzle piece. Can you kind of just like let the people of the community know what this was about and your idea behind this specific project?
Yeah, so this was actually more last minute than it comes off. Like as I was shipping out the stickers, I got to give a big shout out to Revden Cat, who was my I remember a while ago I saw him plotting on the boards that I used to ship out like Ghost and like 70s Pop, and like before we even heard of Art Blocks, I thought, wow, that's really cool. Like I love that opportunity to plot on a lot of different aspects. So like the first time we did that was, I believe, with like when we shipped out a piece to Snowfro, like we plotted, I believe that piece is called Tornado on the backing board. So when I went to ship these like these stickers, I was like, oh, let's like print something on that. And I went to print Enchiridion, which was in the works at the time, like a very early version. And we ended up like when I plotted it, I was like, you know what? We can probably do a puzzle with this. So I messaged Steven. I'm like, look, we're gonna do a puzzle, like, and I'm gonna send out the pieces. If they put it together, there's gonna be some sort of prize. I have no idea what the prize is gonna be, but like it's gonna be something. So like we just put that all together and shipped it, and it turned out great. Like there's a ton of probability to that. I was very worried that the people in the Discord would not share all their pieces and there wouldn't be enough pieces to complete the puzzle.
Yeah.
And we got very lucky in the end. I thought I'd shipped it to Snowfro, the last piece that was missing, but it was actually not the Snowfro, it was to someone else. And then I looked through, because I had a pile of pieces, I had like the puzzle for the bot, and I had the puzzle from I believe Rockland's was the last one, but like I essentially gave the last piece to, I think, Rockland. I have terrible memory, by the way, but I gave it to Rockland and was like, look, like do whatever puzzle you want, like, and you'll reveal the last piece. And so it was a lot of fun to do, and it worked out well, and we got really lucky with that.
Yeah. And something I thought was funny was we watched D. Bachman's feature on After Dinner Mints, and he was talking about like how in the community nobody really knew what was going on. Like nobody knows what the prize is going to be. Nobody knew if they could solve it. We didn't know any of that either. We just knew like this would be a lot of fun to get everybody participating in this and get them excited about doing something together.
Yeah, it was like it was like an online scavenger hunt, and it kind of brought people from different parts of the community together, to work on this project, and it kind of transitioned into your next project, Enchiridion, like you said, which I think is such a cool segue. You have your first project, and then you have this puzzle, which kind of transitions into the second one.
Yeah, we're really happy with how that worked out.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant, and it's just a cool way to kind of bring people together. So I want to talk about Enchiridion, which is a project that, was it last week? I think it was, the drop was already, it's already been a week, I think, right now. Congratulations, by the way, for selling that out. I think it was, like a lot of these projects lately, I think it's sold out within half an hour, probably less, or I'm not sure. But I know it's sold out, and a lot of people have been raving about it. What was your inspiration for this project?
Oh, yeah. So we have some history here, but like in terms of what we were thinking, so Empyrean, like we said, we went all out. We were like, there's 21 features and we're doing the whole shebang and it's going to be wild. It's going to be wacky. What ended up happening was Empyrean was this, a more like a very much an amorphous blob. And you can kind of see that, like that representation of like this amorphous being in the Empyrean. And for the next one, we wanted to kind of go like, so a bunch of my inspiration comes from like architects and architecture, whether that's Frank Lloyd Wright and like Blarg Ingels, who does a lot of architecture in New York City, and I believe he's from Denmark. So like I wanted to do something that kind of brought more of that architectural form. And what we first came out with was this one on May 2nd, which is not very organized, and like quickly that swapped to what you see on May 3rd, where it's like you have a very organized piece. And I really like this one, and some of you may recognize this from Artblock's project share, but there looks to be like some type of sniper rifle like gun in the upper left. It kind of like looks like this cyberpunk like organization like piece. So it was kind of like this and you see this in the description, but like a rejection of the Empyrean, like very different, very organized, very geometric. So like originally like Stephen came with like the Empyrean code, and you kind of see that I can kind of go back here a little bit, but like Stephen's style, and this is our first pieces ever on Instagram, like the first generative art pieces we ever made. And this is what's so great about doing this all on Instagram is we have literally a history of every single like generative art piece we've ever made. So you see on the right, you see like Stephen's is very flowy and like this circle in the background, it's very fluid, while mine on the left is more about this like central like dark triangle form, like very more a lot more geometric. So like he brought forward Empyrean, which is this flowy, then I brought in like the original algorithm for Enchiridion, which was more like geometric. So I think this is a really good encompass, or like kind of represents how we work as a team together. Like these two pieces have really just, like you said before, like this story with art blocks, with the puzzle and everything. I think these pieces even represent our story as artists in this space.
Oh, that's awesome. So I know the color palettes are a lot different, obviously, from the first project. How did you go about selecting the palettes for this specific project?
Yeah, so something that's I think is pretty cool about this project is if you look at the rectangle decorations for a given color palette, the relationship between two colors in that palette will always be the same. So let's say you have a purple rectangle with a pink set of parallel lines on that rectangle. If you take any other piece from that same color palette, you'll have the same purple rectangle with the pink lines on that rectangle. So the relationship between the colors is very important in this piece. So what we really wanted to do was make sure those relationships fell into one of maybe 2 or 3 different categories that we felt were acceptable, where they were highly visible, but basically the right amount of contrast. And from there, we also tested out a bunch of different types of color palettes. Like we had some monochrome ones, which didn't really work out too well with our vision of the piece. I think they looked cool, but they didn't really fit in. That's where we came in with the color cohesion. So I think there's mono, high, normal, and random. So based on color cohesion, we kind of solved the problem of missing monochrome, which we really wanted. But yeah, basically what we needed to do was ensure that the relationships between all of the colors in a given palette fell into those correct categories.
Cool. Do you have some favorite mints that you want to share with us?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like there's here's for those that don't know, just quickly, like this is the like puzzle piece that people ended up creating. Thanks to D. Bachman for putting all these pieces together. But originally we were going to do the original like we have the plotter file for this, and we were going to mint the plotter file as an NFT. But once D. Bachman put that whole like Photoshop together, we were like, this exemplifies that a lot better.
Yeah, I think it's great.
But in terms of like our favorite mints, I think these are the ones in terms that came out of the minter that we were like the happiest with. like you have 616, 616, which was this like grid layout, like black and white with like this rectangle decoration of like mixed lines. Like this is just like a classic, like each one is so like has its own unique shape and form, and you end up getting like 9 of them in this piece. And I think it kind of shows in like, because these are each individual like fleets, so like each of these is generated just like the larger like fleet is generated. So
Enchiridion.
oh yeah, sorry, sorry, that's the what was previous the prototype name, but like the overall like Enchiridion was generated. So like they have like you kind of have this individual like form there, and each one's unique. So then the next one you have is like 410, which is this gradient, and like this is a top level partition. So you have like, we kind of took like you see the partitions in like the 616 in the middle there, where it repeats on the right side, but that's like a lower level repetition. So we kind of took that repetition and pulled that up to the top level, so then you can kind of get these higher level ones that repeat in like a kind of like a street view, and like they end up making like this very repeated like piece with the gradient here that kind of looks like individual tickets. And when we were making this slide deck, when you have it like in a really small thumbnail, it kind of looks like some old style like portraits, which I think is really cool if you're really far away from that one. Then the last one you have is 799, which is another piece from Bach that we love, which is this monochrome, like 4 rows, and like it ended up like just by chance repeating like yellow, black, and like I think this is just like a classic like Enchiridion like mono that we were really hoping to see in this piece.
Yeah, I was so happy when I saw that one come through. 799, I think that's perfect.
Yeah. And we also have some like unusual ones that we like really loved to see. Like you have 37, which is a face, which reminds us of Pixel Cube's generative faces. It like it could fit perfectly in that collection. And this is completely by chance, and I feel like the eyes really have this like detailed like look to them, which is like insane. Because this is all just by chance. Then you have 605, which is a full mono like black, and you can hardly even see like the outlines there. And that's just like was like we knew probably one of those would appear. And it's so cool that it was exactly one, and it was about in the middle of the set, and like that was like it. There's like there's not like a white equivalent like that turned out just exactly the same, but this is like the one that I feel really turned out like really interesting. Then you have 10, which is that top level partition that's actually mirroring our grid style. So we have grids, and then we have top level partitions. So grids are always like this 4 by, or not 4 by 4, but some type of rows by an amount of columns. So there can be like a 4 by 4 grid. This is a partition one, which doesn't always do like these very uniform, but it has the chance to do these repeats. In this like chance, it did a repeat and exactly mirrored our grid style. And you can tell by like it's a bit of a smaller like gap than the grids have. And it's like a full repeat. And I think it also has this 3D style that was like so cool to see pop up.
Awesome. So I got to ask, after Empyrean, you created a puzzle. Are we expecting another puzzle potentially after, the completion of this project?
You can expect something.
Okay.
We don't have all the details ironed out. We know what we want to do. We won't spoil it for anyone. The element of surprise is pretty important for us, at least in the prior community event, and we want to keep it that way for this community event. But yeah, you can definitely expect something coming soon.
That's great to know. Do either of you have individually or collectively as a duo have any other projects in the works?
Yeah. So usually we have a lot of projects going on at once, and that's sort of the way we work, I guess. Is we'll each work on our own projects that we think are pretty cool, something that might be a good idea. Maybe it'll fit in with something we want to take to art blocks, maybe not. And then we'll sort of come together and discuss and see what we think is viable for a major project, like something we would bring to Art Blocks. Lately, Alex has been working on something that we both think is really cool. So most likely that will be coming to Art Blocks in the future, but not anytime too soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about like this question too is, and what got like Steven and I like talking earlier was the like, would you consider doing like a piece individually?
Oh, yeah.
And what's funny is like Steven and I came into generative artwork together. Like I came to Steven, I'm like, generative artwork would be cool to like, mess around with and see what we can do from like what we learned in college. And we came into crypto together, into like art blocks and like this whole thing. So when we saw this question, we were like, wow, like I would like this did never even crossed our mind like whatsoever. So like it's interesting to think about, but I think for the foreseeable future, like generative artworks is like our group, because we kind of, when we were talking about initially like forming generative artworks, we wanted to be kind of like a little bit of a Banksy thing, like there's this amorphous entity called like generative artworks that makes generative art, which we never ended up like doing, because we came into the art blocks community and we're like, this is all about like these connections you make with other people and like the communicating about the art, and it didn't really make sense at that point to like keep it as this amorphous entity anymore.
So before we wrap up, first I want to thank you guys for being on tonight. What's one piece of advice you would offer to another artist, a generative artist that maybe wants to apply to art blocks? Like what's the biggest one? Each one of you can have like a piece of advice, but what would be like something that you'd be like, hey, this is something that you should know while applying or while just creating on while you work on your script?
I would definitely say, all right, so I'm thinking two things. I would definitely say ask questions. Everyone's willing to help. I know Alex and myself are willing to help, and everyone else I've met on the Discord, they're all willing to help also. And second would be read the docs. So if you're trying to get into generative art, do your research, don't expect it to be easy right away. If you have programming knowledge, obviously that's incredibly helpful. But if not, you can learn that too, and let generative art be the motivation to teach you that. But definitely read the docs, do your research, and ask questions along the way.
I think what Steven said, like 100% I agree with. I think there's the second part to that is like always be consistent. I think one thing we learned with like doing Instagram and everything, and like kind of pursuing this as well, for Steven at this point is like a career, is just consistency, like day in, day out, like try new things, learn, like read every documentation you can, and whether sometimes you want to or not, like make something. And over time you just like improve and improve until you kind of see some people you kind of love, like their art, and you start to understand like, oh, that's how they did this. And from there, like once you kind of understand how they can do that, you can kind of apply those principles into your own art and kind of make something you feel is really unique and kind of signifies what you believe in as an artist.
Great, I appreciate that. I know a lot of artists that are looking to apply or just get into generative art. That's obviously super helpful. Is there any way that like people can reach out to you? Any like social media plugs before we move on to Phil Smith and Only Generated?
Yeah, sure. So we're both pretty active on the Art Blocks Discord, so reach out to us there or DM us if you need to reach out to us personally. We're also very active on Instagram. We post every day on our Instagram. Our handle is @Generative Artworks. So you can find us there. You can also message us on Instagram if you want to discuss anything. Also Twitter, we're @Gen Artworks on Twitter. We're not quite as active there, but we're working on it.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, thanks again, guys, for being on. Steven and Alex. Appreciate you guys being on. And I know we'll have Druid on later on. Maybe we'll have some questions for you guys later.
Sure. Thanks, Panya.
Thank you. Up next, we have Phil Smith, aka Only Generated. How are you doing, Phil?
Hey, great. Good to
Well,
be here.
first off, congratulations. I know you had a drop today. Disentanglement sold out. Yeah, how are you feeling since the project sold out?
Great. A little overwhelmed by it all, but yeah, just I'm really. I think most of all, I'm just happy with the output from the whole algorithm. And I was something about the test mints, like they did. It's just like the ones that I happened to mint, I just wasn't like super in love with, but like everything that minted today, I really like it. Like it was really easy for me to just go and find some that I liked. So
Awesome.
that means that's a positive sign.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, like how you got into generative art, and then how you learned about art blocks?
Sure. So my kind of like native digital art background goes all the way back to like bulletin board systems, and when people were creating like ANSI art, ASCII art, and coming up with modems and things. And when I was in college, I kind of ran one of these underground computer art groups called Fire, and to compete with ICE or ACID. You might have heard of those groups. I don't know in the past, but it's kind of a corollary to the demo scene that was a little bit more popular in Europe, but it's kind of a lot of people making the most of what they could do with a limited resources, you know. So how can you make a picture out of text characters, you know, that kind of thing, and that kind of built on itself over time. And I took a lot of studio art and art history classes in college, but my major was cognitive science. So I always had this streak of kind of interested in combining like how we perceive things visually with the artistic side of things, and trying to marry those. And then career-wise, started off kind of in multimedia development, worked a lot with Flash, and working specifically with like e-learning and developing presentations, training, interactive like simulations. I like to say I taught people how not to sink a nuclear submarine. I did a lot of that. So throughout all this time, I've been doing just generative art on the side. So this started off with Flash. So like back, like 10 years ago or so, I had a kind of interactive kiosk installation at a festival nearby that was all generative art and kind of interactive before touchscreens were really available to me at the time. But so yeah, that's always kind of been on the back burner because there hasn't been a path to pursue it like more seriously professionally. So really excited about this opportunity to kind of move in that direction.
Awesome. And how did you learn about art blocks? Is that something that you've learned about, for a very long time, or is it something you just kind of stumbled upon? Or
I heard about it before. I don't know if it was before it officially launched, but Snowfro came on a Discord chat. It was a gosh, I totally forget the name of I should have looked it up since I forgot about it earlier this afternoon too, but he's given basically like an audio presentation to a bunch of people. I was listening in on that. I was like, oh, immediately, like just the description of it is like, oh, that's exactly what hits me. So I had kind of discovered NFTs and crypto art about a year and a half ago, but it never really, I wasn't like super excited about it because it didn't fit the generative aspect of things totally well. So I was selling things on Maker's Place and NanoOrigin, but they're just static images, and it didn't fit what I did the way that Art Blocks does. So yeah, just got in touch and got on a list, and after kind of some fits and starts, finally got something to had the time to kind of focus on it. So
excellent. Yeah, and let's talk about Disentanglement. This is your first project on Art Blocks, factory project. Can you share with us, the process of how you created this project and your vision?
Yeah, sure. Can I go ahead and share something?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll get you.
So it started off. It started off just as a sketchbook thing. So it's just drawing something. And so typically in the past, like a lot of my stuff has been very organic, like doing code, adding things step by step, and trying lots of different things and trial and error. But this was like the first time in a while, like I've done something where it started off as a pretty succinct idea and then kind of went from there. So, that basic form comes from this classic Rubens vase, which goes back, it's over 100 years old, coming from kind of a psychologist studying figure ground, how we perceive that. So that kind of fit into my cognitive science background. So just kind of like, it's right there at the top of my mind all the time. But, over time, I guess I'll go ahead to, so this is kind of what, this is similar to kind of like the first attempt to put it in when I first created a script and showed it to Snowfur. It kind of looked something like this. This is the basic idea, and I just like, except that both the figures are the same. And so as I was working on this over time, I realized it's like, oh, this has a lot to do. It originally was just a visual thing. It's like, oh, there's a cool visual lines going together. And then I was like, realized it kind of fit into what I was going through at the time, which is a divorce. And it helped me to think about all the ways that like our lives were entangled and how difficult it was to disentangle them. So hence the title. And then over time, it started off as just sort of like about a little bit about my relationship, but then it was like, oh, this is kind of, the more I looked at these pictures, the more I could see it's like, I can see the positives and the negatives of things. So is it the same way that you have a figure and a ground and an image? It's like I could see the positive aspects of being entangled with someone and the negative aspects of like, that happens from that. So it kind of, the additional features that I added on over time kind of fit into that theme of relationships and how people, the different states of a relationship over time.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. It's something I just haven't seen, so far in Art Blocks. So I really love that project. How did you go about selecting the color palettes for this one?
So this color palettes here are not, they're pretty much completely generative, and they're not pre-selected. So essentially, they start with a random number for a hue along a color wheel. And then colors are chosen strategically to be like certain distances from that root hue. So you might have it might be, 30 degrees around a wheel in either direction, and they combine together to kind of put colors together. And there was a lot involved in just twiddling around with different variables. And, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it gets a little muddy, and sometimes you get like the colors just like too close together, or but I think after a lot of work, I felt really good about the overall just color output that was coming out of it. You could get some when it did work. I thought it was really exciting how it ended up looking. So this is just an example of a it's probably not too many yellows. I think I kind of tilted the random number generator scales a little bit in favor of the reds and purples. So you don't see quite as many like greens and yellows, but so here, just in terms of, it would help to kind of like go through the features real quick. I got a few examples of different things. So actually let me bring in here. So the features here. So there's 4 different, for each kind of sex, there's 4 different images, 4 different profiles. So in each one has a name, and then there's 3 distinct kind of male and female, and then there's one that's kind of unisex that can be either one, and that has a unisex name too. So just the couples just refers to exactly what the profiles are. Chromosomes just sort of like, if it's, I'm trying not to be too specific about sex here. I think part of what's going on here is like, I don't want people to think, oh, this is binary, like female, male necessarily, but some people have long hair and some people are kind of unisex features. And so but there is kind of an underlying system to it. Facebook official just refers to, are they close together or far apart? If they're close together, then if they're Facebook official, then all of the lines will be connected. If they're not, then there's going to be some lines that are not connected.
I love that.
And they're further apart. And then knots, an example of something that has some knots in it. Oh gosh, where's my knots? I didn't pick a good knot one, but this is kind of close. It's not the best for contrast. But knots refer to points in between the two figures where all the lines are going to go through. So this one has 2 knots. So all the lines are going to go either through this point here or this point here. So, and the knots are meant to kind of represent like the things that share between the couple that, you know, neither one of them want to give up, you know, that they don't want to share custody of, you know. So kids are the obvious thing here, but you know, it could be other things. We were talking on Discord. It could be their vinyl collection. You know, when you get up into the number 18 knots and things like that. It's probably, hopefully, that's not kids. And then, okay, lost identity. This is one of those things that was very cathartic for me to go through, because so this started off as just sort of like a bug. Like I was just debugging to see what it looked like without the lines, without the lines on the faces, and I just like really liked the way it looked. So so I just left it off, and it kind of has this sort of like this butterfly look to it. Or I also think some of them look a little bit like a kind of like a chromosome, like just gene. What's the
a DNA
what's
strand?
the word I'm thinking? Anyways, yeah, DNA strand. That's what I'm thinking. So the idea, the way I interpreted to kind of the cathartic aspect of this was to think, okay, so like in a relationship, sometimes it stops being about yourself and about like the other person, or you're doing things just for that other person, or it's just you kind of losing your sense of identity. And so that was the reason for the name. So lost identity, false or true. Space, I need space. That's just, you know, if these kind where some of them have this wider line look to them. Drama. So this refers to how much like entropy there is. So this one is chill. So you'll see, you know, the lines sort of match up. They're pretty close to parallel with each other. They hook up with the line between it. But let's see if we can find one that is, oh, that's chill. That's crazy. Oh, that just has a lot of knots in it. Let's see if I have, there's some that are 911. The opposite direction is 911. What's your emergency? So that means the lines are going all over. This is a good example of that. So, you know, one of these lines could go completely, it could line up with anything all over the entire, all other side. So it's just crazier if it has more drama. I don't know. I won't go into too many. There's hairstyles. There's different. You got the 69s, which is sort of like just sort of rotational symmetry, and then you have some that are upside down, and then you know there's just different color combinations, different color styles that just have letter names. So that's a breakdown of the basic features.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Was there anything that surprised you when you saw the mints coming through the minter? I don't know if I know it sold out today, so I don't know if you had time to go through all the mints or anything.
Well, one thing that came up that I found, I'm glad I found an example of. So, you know, occasionally you have some that have like knots that are, most of them are going to be 1, 2, or 3 knots, but sometimes, or 0, 1, 2, or 3, but sometimes you'll have some that are kind of like anywhere between 3 and 20 or something like that. So this is an example. It's supposed to have 11 knots in it, but it only has like 4 lines. So that's something I realized after this all went over. Is like some of these are going to have more knots than they have lines to go through. So sometimes you don't actually see the knots that are kind of in there. That was one little surprise, but most of all, it was just like I'm just glad to see so much variety in what came out of that. And this, I mean, like stuff like this is just, I don't know. I like looking at stuff like this, and it's just when some of the things are just all the way crazy, and then you have some that are just like, you know, they're just totally flatline kind of things. So they're basically robots. That's probably
like
robots.
a really
That's
nice
what
variety, you know, throughout all the mints that I've seen so far. Can you tell us? Can you tell us a little bit about? So there is 10% of artist proceeds from this are going to Interact of Wake County. Can you tell us a little bit about this organization?
Sure. So I've lived in both Wake County and Durham County in North Carolina, and so when I was, I think it actually kind of came to me when I was having a chat in Artblocks Discord, thinking about just like the privilege that I had to be able to leave a relationship. You know, as hard as it was possible. And then it got me thinking about, oh, there's people out there where it's just not possible to leave. You know, either it's a money thing, or it's an abuse thing, or you know, it's a cultural thing, or something like that. And they have no way to get out, and they're trapped. And it made me want to help out those people who are in that position. And so Interactive Wake County focuses on trying to get rid of domestic violence or bring awareness to domestic violence and sexual assault, and to provide resources for and kind of education around that. So they have crisis, like shelters for people who need to get away from a bad situation. They have counseling services for people who have gone through things like that. And I've had a number of friends and my sister have all worked in places like that, in different places and in different cities. And so I kind of heard the stories around that a lot, and it just made me want even more to kind of support that in some way.
Awesome.
So yeah, I don't have a personal connection with that organization, but it just fit what I was trying to do. So
I think that's amazing. I think it kind of ties in with, you know, your project. So Interactive of Wake County, I think that's a beautiful organization. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, that's yeah, and this is just after, you know, seeing so many other people who've done similar things through art blocks, and it's really amazing. Like, you know, as a platform, how this has kind of helped a lot of people. So
absolutely,
kudos to those people for kind of going down that path too.
What's one piece of advice that you would offer to, you know, someone else that wants to be a generative artist? You know, what's something that you can offer to them to help them, you know, potentially be on art blocks or just release a project of their own somewhere else?
I think one thing is, you know, yes, look at what other people are doing to learn. I mean, that's there, especially like something like P5. I used to code in C++, and then but it was like so easy to pick up P5 because there's so many examples. It's such a great community around it. So take advantage of the community aspect of it. But when you're creating your own art, just find something unique to be inspired by. And you know, I when I'm on Instagram, I find myself being inspired more by painters and abstract artists, you know, non-digital abstract artists, to kind of like to sort of find ways to recreate what they're doing in a digital generative way. And I think when we're all kind of looking at each other, it becomes a little bit of an echo chamber sometimes. And so that'd be my 2 cents.
And then do you have any other projects? I know you mentioned earlier on that you have some projects on other platforms. Are you currently working on any other projects that will be released potentially on art blocks or somewhere else?
I don't have a specific project in the works, but one of one of my main goals is to take some of the work that I've done in C++ and Open Framework, specifically that library, and to port the basic ideas of it over to P5, so that could be a project here or elsewhere on the web. And a lot of that is focused on these systems of creating abstract canvases, essentially, lots of different brushstrokes, ribbons, groupings of objects, and the different ways they kind of interact with each other. So I'd love to bring that. Another sort of track that I've always been interested in is sort of generative portraits or anything portrait related, faces. That's a little harder because we're working with a pure. We don't have that. We can't really have a bitmap to work from as a source material necessarily. And so this was my kind of, the profiles were kind of my way to make that work for art blocks. But those are the two kind of things I want to be working on.
Cool. And then how can people reach you? Any like social media plugs that you want to throw out there?
Yep. Just onlygenerated on Twitter and Instagram. I haven't been posting a lot on Instagram over the past few months, but I will be soon. One thing to throw out there too, I plan to have stories around all of these mints.
Oh, great.
And I've kind of started off with the stories for the test net mints, the Rinkeby mints. So you can go to my Instagram page to see, or my Twitter page. There's a dedicated Disentanglement Twitter page you can look at to get some examples. But yeah, that's what I have in store. Onlygenerated.art for a website, but it's always tough to keep that up to date.
I understand. There's a lot of social media, website, and then working on your own projects. But Bill Smith, thank you so much for being on. Congratulations again on your project, Disentanglement, for selling out today on Factory. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you being on.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thanks for being on. Next up, we have a amazing art blocks collector, and yeah, without further ado, I just want to introduce AC.
How's it
How
going,
you
man?
doing?
How you doing? Doing well. Good to be
Well,
here.
first, I just want to say you have a nice collection of ringers I see that are framed behind you.
I'm proud of them, so I'm in front of them. So,
Yeah, I think it's
thank you. Appreciate it.
doing them justice.
And I just put them up, so it's utility. I'm proud to be in front.
I love it.
I think ringers are the ones that I see the most behind people. Congrats to Dimitri. That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I think you were at least the first to kind of kick off these prints and these framed pieces.
Yeah. I love it. Well, AC, I want to ask you, how did you learn about art blocks in the NFT space?
It's actually it's probably because of Dimitri. I have a curator friend of mine who's like a sister, and so she could speak frankly to me on like where to spend my attention or money. And I think pre-NFT, I had an opportunity at I think Dimitri had a piece called Breath of Fresh Pearls, and I missed out, and it ate at me. So I had always known about them and said, when I get a chance, I would love to collect them. But so I had the generative art bug. Actually, I have a piece here, the physical. Let me grab it real quick. Tyler Hobbs's Quietude, and it's kind of funny because it was a Mother's Day gift for my wife. It kind of signals a baby in a womb and kind of that like symbiosis between mother and child. So I felt, it wasn't. I was shopping for Mother's Day and it was her first one, and I didn't think it would be art, but it just felt so appropriate for my wife. And this curator was like, here's the code. Tyler gives the code with the pieces. And I was like, this is generated. This is art that a computer did. And I'm non-technical, so it really blew my mind because it read my mind. It was like a Mother's Day gift. So it felt, and ever since then, it was like this itch on, holy shit, as a non-technical person, what are people teaching? What kind of algorithms are they writing and that give outputs like this that are aesthetically beautiful, and you want them on your wall. And so that got me into the generative art, craze. And then the AB thing was finally, a mutual friend was also, he was interested in a ringer. And I said, how are you gonna get a Dimitri piece? I didn't believe that there was 1,000. So I said, okay, let me take a look. I think the floor was at like 4 or 5 at the time. I said, okay, more affordable than the one of ones. But so that was really my introduction to art blocks was, hey, this is Dimitri's piece. you could own it. And you know, I think my first one was like the fourth last statistical rarity, but I love it. It's this one right here. It looks really cool printed and stuff. So, you know, I grabbed it, and then you're really bit by the bug once you have one. So it just snowballed from there, and you want to get another one and pair it. So I think, you know, props to Dimitri for being a great artist and pulling me in, and you know, that's how it started.
That's very cool. So Ringers, you jumped in on the secondary. What was the first project they were able to mint, you know, on the primary sale?
It actually wasn't until operas.
Oh,
it
wow.
wasn't until operas, because you know, I wish I had more attention, or you know, time on the minting process, because minting is competitive, and it's like you got to be on it. It's gonna sell out in 20 minutes. So I actually missed Subscapes as well, which is the one I probably spent the most in the secondary on. So yeah, I would say operas was fun because it was over a weekend. I think it was a Saturday. I had time to sit down and like have ETH on my wallet and feel comfortable sitting there and minting. But yeah, I don't mint often because I'm not always at my computer around minting time. But I you know, I definitely now have alerts and stuff to be around one if I can.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, your Subscape collection is by far, I think, one of the best out there. I mean, if you have your screen pulled up, I would love to see, you know, some of your mints
Sure.
from Subscapes or just any of your other projects.
I actually separated my galleries because I had quite a few Subscapes, and
wow.
you know, here's probably my favorite Subscape wall in general. There's, you know, there's too many to say a favorite. You know, if we walk around, I think
This is true, bro.
I really treated it. It's funny hearing Snow on this. Once Snow bought these Starfalls,
Oh, yeah.
it signaled in my head. I said, "Man, that's the most cool, you know, property I've seen in AB." I'll get closer to it, and it triggered a nostalgic thing for me. I used to play Warcraft 3, the Frozen Throne, a lot. Starfall was like this you know, ultimate of Priestess of the Moon. It just felt so. It was a collectible in my heart, and it was also artwork that I was like, I want this print. So I would say, you know, Subscape 196 pulled me in, and then I did kind of your the land grab on summits, you know, as many summits as I could really find. Then I think some people, you know, here are my other ones. Some people kind of got aware of what I was doing, and I had to get off of the summit and started collecting pallets. Here are the sirens. Um, you know, sorry. This chalk was a recent one. I think people might have slept on it, but it's probably one of my favorite pieces of the Subscapes. You know, proud to have two waterfalls. So you know, Subscapes. Yeah, it often comes up with my name because I really I had an itch. I felt like there's a Tom Cruise movie, I think, where Far and Away, where he's going out for land, and you got to go and claim it in the 1800s in the West. And it felt that way. It felt like these landscapes were, you know, you want to own them. And you know, for me, Subscapes, it felt special in that I come from a more fabrication background than you know, computer software. So I always imagined, you know, with this 3D data, either a CNC mill, a 3D printer, a hologram. You know, let me try to pull up a wireframe. I think it's over here. You know, the wireframes are cool to me because I've said this, but like I've always imagined them as kind of a Star Wars 3D hologram kind of scene where they're, you know, like in Rogue One, they're discussing like a raid or something like that. So you know, those are the Subscapes.
I'd be
This
curious, what
is
about the minimalistic one? The one where I know a lot of people were like, whoa, this one is not going to
this
sell
guy.
ever. Yeah. Can you
Yeah,
talk to us a little bit about that one?
yeah. I think I didn't know where to go first, and I think something I do in my collecting in general is kind of pay attention to not just the artist himself, but any artist in art blocks and kind of what they're excited about. But Matt had said that, you know, I think this one was if it was an output in pre-art blocks, if this was an output, he would have just like scrapped it, right? He wouldn't. and I felt, you know, maybe ugly duckling in it, but it just felt special to have a mistake like that. And I think he just, you know, minimalistic. Yeah, it's a drift waterfall. You don't even, these are the drifts, and you can't even tell that it's a drift. So it has this like cool ugly cousin to it, and I think it's beautiful. I'd love to have a print of this one. So yeah, that one really kicked off. I think my son, you know, I think I spent 13 ETH on this guy, and I said, okay, Band-Aid's ripped off. I'm willing to spend this amount. Let me start completing a collection of subscapes that, first of all, I want to have, you know, digital galleries are great, but I'm excited to print these. I think Matt's excited to share 3D data, so you know you get a little more hackerish with what you get out of that, and that was kind of my land grab on the subscapes.
Awesome. What about some of your other art block? I know you have another
Sure. Yeah, my
art
other
gallery
gallery.
pulled up.
Let me pull up my other gallery. You know, I would someday maybe get a Crypto Voxels land and combine everything. But yeah, this is my ode to AB in general gallery. And I know Fidenza's a very popular drop that I probably need to get a Fidenza room going. But yeah, this is, you know, this is a drop that sorry, this is my gallery that I'm proud to share the other pieces in. Uh, yeah, I would like to get them all under one roof or multiple rooms in a plot somewhere. But this is probably the ringer I was most proud to get, because I come from aviation as a background, and I just felt like the appropriateness of this ringer being sold, and it was priced very fairly. So when I grabbed 406, it was my avatar for a long time. I put an identity around it. But this guy, I love him. He's my background right now in my house. So you know, this trio is my most recent trio that I was really excited to go after it. I think I was trying to do a red, white, and blue gallery for the 4th of July and kind of put together some kind of interesting take on collecting. And I was kind of lucky to get these all to line up and grab them.
Cool. So obviously you've been a part of the Art Blocks community. I've seen you just obviously the purchases with Subscapes, I think was obviously epic. What do you love most about the Art Blocks community?
I would say, you know, it's a community that, you know, Snow and everybody like DC Investor, Kevin Rose, you know, you listen to these guys, they're big brained. You know, they have long-term theses. Snow's has been tested since 2017 and it worked out with his punks. So it's got this great ambiance between, you know, young enthusiastic people into crypto. It's kind of like my favorite intersection, I think, between crypto and art. And I collect art and pre NFT as well. So it's just extremely interesting intersection in that, you know, I'll name some of my favorite co-collectors, right? Like you've got JDH or like a Rudy A coming in, and you know, these guys put together incredible collections. So it's like you kind of see this their brain activity in their purchases, and you're like, they're up to something, right? They know what's going on. So that's kind of inspired me to jump in and kind of collect like they do. Kate is another one of my favorite collectors because she's like this stoic. You ask her any question and she replies like, you know, with brevity, but like extremely in depth. And she's got probably the best eye in Discord. So the community, when you have these people, that is what a community is. It's a collection of people, and I would say, you know, non-pretentious, a very good collection of individuals in this AB community, and it's just getting started.
Great. Well, thanks so much for sharing that. You know, what's one, you know, something I tell every collector when I have them on After Dinner Mints is, you know, we have a lot of new people on Discord, a lot of people joining Art Blocks, learning about it. Like, what's one piece of advice that you would give to collectors that are new to Art Blocks?
Yeah, you know, since it's generative, it's like I was collecting probably, you know, what they call the JPEGs, right? I was doing a lot of yeah, I like my pre Art Blocks NFTs, but I haven't gone back to them since. and I think you have to buy what you want on your wall. Um, you you can't really speculate on art is subjective. You don't want to speculate on statistical rarity is interesting in art blocks because if it's a 1 of 1 out of 1,000 and that's the rarest out of 1,000, you have a great piece. It's likely going to be very interesting, but you don't want to. Eventually, if you're going to be spending large sums of money, you want to enjoy them in your physical world as well. So you got to imagine it on your wall and want it there. So that's one thing, and definitely you want to consider the network effects, not just like which blockchain the NFTs are on, because I've purchased on Tezos and Bitmark and other chains, and I love the art on those chains, but it doesn't have the same fluidity and even the same like gallery effect, right? You're not able to kind of put it all together in one room. So network effects are important, and lastly, the fact that you could DM somebody and do a trade or negotiate a piece is very valuable to me, because it's like you're not you're not guessing who might be the owner, or like blackball black box behind a Christie's or Sotheby's on the private seller and stuff. Like there's identities involved, there's personality and reputation at stake off as well. So it creates a network effect for collectors to kind of have to behave. And I think you want to consider that as a new collector. You want to be in this in the long haul, or you want to look like you're selling 1 or 2 pieces fast and kind of just give yourself up.
Cool. Well, AC, thanks so much for sharing your incredible collection of subscapes and just other art block pieces. Yeah. Up next, we have I'm gonna throw the Squiggle giveaway inside the Discord, and during those few minutes, we're gonna call up Druid and have him on to ask any questions that the community had. Cool. So make sure you click on the ta-da, and I know there'll be probably like some beer, cheers, and some, maybe not, but yeah, make sure you click it. There you go. Make sure you click it once. If you click it twice, then you're gonna basically unsubscribe from entering into this contest. So we'll have about 3.5 minutes. In the time being, we're gonna call up Druid in a moment and see if he has any questions for anyone that's on today.
Hey guys, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, how are you doing, Druid?
Good, man. My mind is blown from that collection, AC. Honestly, I mean the subscapes, I mean that beyond impressive. I mean that I can't do it justice. So that was awesome to see. I only have a few questions today. So for Generative Artworks, I always like to ask this question just to get a little bit of insight. Maybe you guys can answer. Is your creative process based on discipline or inspiration? And if it's based on discipline, how do you get inspired? And if it's based on inspiration, how do you institute discipline in your practice?
That's a crazy question. I absolutely love it. I'm gonna lead with that. I can't speak for Steven, but I would say like mine is very inspiration driven, like kind of looking, especially living in like the New York City area. Like I walk past, like as I've said before, like architecture is one of my big inspirations. So walking past like these brownstones and seeing like kind of these repeated elements a lot of times was like a big inspiration for like Enchiridion. Like after talking to Sophia from Art X Code, we thought we could really kind of get a lot of like mileage from like this repetition that you kind of see in the brownstones, like on like the molding. So like we kind of ran with that, and I feel like that one was very inspiration driven. Yeah. What do you think, Steven?
Yeah, I think overall, like as a team, we're more inspiration driven, and we sort of feed off of each other, and it's a lot of fun to bounce ideas off of one another, and we often come up with the same idea at the same time, which is part of what's so nice about working together. I think as far as the discipline goes for us, and ensuring that we're always creating something new is really from the rules we set for ourselves with our Instagram page. We have to post every day, so we have to constantly be making generative art.
Awesome. yeah, dailies seem to be a pretty good motivation. That just that like social pressure to hey, I got to get something out there. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, just another question: who is your biggest artistic influence, and what book has been the most influential on your creative process?
So it's hard for me to put a finger on a single artist. I really like Yayoi Kusama's art. I really like all of the polka dots and sort of I'm really into circles and sort of the wavy lines that are created in between the circles in Yayoi Kusama's art. I also really like this artist called Dalek. Now, I don't even know how well known Dalek is. I actually have Dalek's prints over there in the corner. Dalek makes these space monkeys. I think they're incredible. Very geometric art, but not too rigid. And I think it's a really nice balance.
Yeah, I would say my biggest inspiration is definitely in architecture, like Frank Lloyd Wright, Frank Gehry, and like the Blarg Ingalls group. Like this very, I would say like the Scandinavian like architecture is very interesting to me. I think those geometric forms are great in terms of like traditional like art. I did take like art history in like high school, and I loved a lot of Saturn eating their children, I think is the name of like the piece of art. But like that's like a very gory piece, but I feel like that kind of brings in a lot of like these very like brutal elements of art that I love.
Awesome. And just the last question, it will be brief. We've had one question that really divides this community, and there is a line drawn in the sand. I hope you guys can shed some light. Tea or coffee?
Oh, tea, absolutely. Yerba mate in particular.
Yeah, I completely agree with Steven. We're on the same page here. We're generative art team, and I would not go against what Steven has to say. I'm just gonna throw that straight out.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Druid, for being on.
Thanks, Druid.
Cool. Well, yeah, it looks like we do have a winner, Rare Canis. Congratulations. I don't know if Snowfro, if you have their wallet information or not. If not, if you can go ahead and just DM Snowfro your information, and we can go ahead and get that Squiggle process.
Yeah, I don't need your email. Sorry. Send email. Let's see if I get one here.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
It's in the channel. Hello.
Pipe.
Cool. We'll wait on for the Squiggle to get processed. In the meantime, for anyone who doesn't know, Marfa, the Art Blocks soft opening is happening. It's been announced. So if you haven't heard, October 8th weekend, so October 8th, 9th, and 10th, which is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's when Art Blocks House will have, the Art Blocks House will be open. And I know there are going to be a lot of collectors, artists there. So yeah, for anyone who can make it out, we're looking forward to seeing a lot of you there. And yeah, we'll have more details, information about, what to expect. But, as we mentioned on Discord and Twitter, there is going to be it's during Chinati weekend, which is a very big weekend down in Marfa, Texas. So if you are planning to come down, I would highly recommend that you book accommodation, flights, all that, rental car, since you're going to need to get from either El Paso Airport or Midland Airport, and that's about a 3-hour drive. So I know some people might want to coordinate, some carpooling down from the airports, but yeah, I would just highly recommend looking into that ASAP. So, is there did we get the wallet information?
There we are. I just got it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Let's see if it works on the first try. Yeah. I'll speed it up a little bit because it's late, y'all. What time is it? Oh yeah, it's late. It's bedtime. Well, not for me, but for normal people. All right, we haven't seen anything too crazy in a while. Last time, is it Rare Canis? Canis, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
last time were you? I don't know if Rare Canis was at the Squiggle DAO mint, but if they were there, then they were there to see the crazy hyperbold.
Oh yeah, that was wild. I was there for that. I remember it was just like silence for like 5 seconds. These people were just
Like,
in utter
what?
disbelief.
Yeah. Well, oh wait. All
There we
right.
go. Nice one.
A simple, clean, no flatline squiggle. Congrats, Rare Canis.
Congrats.
Enjoy your squiggle.
Well, Snow, now that we're winding down, do you have any news, information that you want to share with the Artblocks community?
Yeah. Well, first of all, yeah, just to kind of follow up on the Marfa thing, I can't wait to see you guys there, all of you crazy people. It's going to be insane. Go easy on Marfa. it's a small little town, and I often tell people, I've been telling people to go to Marfa for years, and about 50% of them that go say it was awesome and inspirational, and that they'll go again, and another 50% are like, yeah, I don't really get it. So I'm hoping that with such an art, related community, maybe we'll kind of push that up to like 60, 65, maybe 70%. But it's definitely, you have to work really hard to get there. And if you get there and you're like, okay, I'm here, it can be, it's just it's always an interesting output. So I'm excited to hear everybody's feedback and opinions, and we have a lot of work to do to get that house ready for everyone to visit. I mean, it's a Piron themed house. Like, I'm just kind of wondering, like, how many people can even be inside the house at any given moment. But we have a big backyard, and the weather should be amazing. So, really excited to see everybody there. Yeah, and that's it. That's all I got for today.
Excellent. Well, I know we've had a lot to talk to today, and first off, I want to thank Snowfro for obviously creating this platform for all of us. For Alex and Steven from Generative Artworks for being on, for Phil Smith, aka Only Generated, and for AC sharing their incredible collection. Thank you guys so much for being on. For a lot of people who are just joining in or just joined in late, just make sure that the Artblocks community lives on Discord. So anything you see here on the right side is part of that community. Artists live there, community, collectors, upcoming artists. So, I would highly recommend everyone just check out the description of this YouTube channel page and just jump on Discord, ask questions. One of us will be able to help you get around, and we just want to help everyone feel at home. On top of that, comment, like, subscribe to the Artblocks YouTube channel. And finally, as always, be excellent to each other, and we will see you next week. Hope everyone has a great day and night.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for putting this together. It's really nice to see you guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
This is
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.